You know, if there's one type of Doors video which stirs me up, it's those ones that claim that one of the old scrapped entities are coming back to the game. Essentially, there were a few models of supposed entities that were leaked all the way back when Doors first released, and a bunch of people have made videos stating that these leaked entities would be added back into the game, despite the leaks being over 2 years old. Now, the reason why I get so mad at these videos is, how the flip is a horse supposed to be an entity? This stupid horse is being claimed to be one of the new entities, as it was one of those old leaked assets, but it only takes 1 second of brain function to realize there's no way a horse could be a Doors entity! However, in my quest to milk this game dry of every single piece of content, I guess it's time for me to swallow my words and talk about these leaks. Of course, no hate to anyone who made those videos, y'all are awesome. Hello everyone, and welcome to another segment of Doors Update News, the only place where you can learn about the upcoming features for Doors in an unnecessary amount of detail. I want to keep this part of the intro relatively short, as I spent most of it ranting about a flippin' horse! But essentially, it is likely that 2 entities planned for the new Subfloor have been leaked, and I'll be discussing what those entities are and how I know they may be implemented. So with all of that being said, let's begin. Alright, so as I had stated before, when Doors was first released, a bunch of supposed entities were actually leaked, albeit they were eventually scrapped. Now, among these scrapped entities were 2 in particular that caught my attention. However, more on those a little later, as I first want to explain why these entities caught my attention. As you may have known, I had always despised the idea that these creatures would actually be added to the game, as most of them seemed pretty outlandish, and how they weren't even brought up for the past 2 years. That was until the developers said this. Apparently, they'll be adding a bunch of scrapped content back into the game, likely with a few changes to fit the modern version of Doors. But still, assets originally cut from the game will be added back in future updates. Now, given how entities are such a major part of Doors, I don't think it's unlikely that these 2-year-old leaks would be revamped and re-implemented. And what's crazier is I'm pretty sure I know where and when they will appear in the game. You see, for the past while, the developers have been hinting at the addition of a brand new subfloor to the game, and we know based on other leaks that it is actually going to be themed around a garden. Think of something similar to the overgrown rooms seen in the mines. This subfloor would be expanding upon what is seen here. Now, I won't go into too much detail about the subfloor itself, as I already made 2 videos about it, so check those out if you haven't. However, given how this subfloor is going to be themed around plants and vegetation, it's likely some of the entities present within it will also share this theme. This all leads me back to the scrapped entities I mentioned earlier. You see, some of them, obviously excluding that stupid horse, would actually fit very well into this garden subfloor given how they are designed to be plant-themed. And given how the developers said that they'll be adding back a ton of scrapped content, it's possible that the garden-related entities will be revamped and added into the garden subfloor. So, with all of that being said, what are these scrapped entities that I think are coming to the game? Well, the first is arguably the most famous of the bunch, and that is the Groundskeeper. The Groundskeeper is a very odd creature, resembling a ghost scarecrow thingy with chains for arms and a bandana. Now, in its current state, this thing is way too bizarre for Doors to ever be added. However, as I had stated, it's likely these scrapped entities will be heavily changed to fit more in line with what is seen in the game. This means that although the Groundskeeper indoors won't look like this leaked model, some features of it, such as the chain arms and the ghost-like body, may stick around. Now, upon first glance, this entity seems to have nothing to do with the garden subfloor. However, something interesting is that the entity's name is very in line with what could be seen in this new area. A Groundskeeper is a worker who typically maintains the nature around a certain building, whether that be by growing plants or cutting grass. In this sense, I think there's a possibility that they could appear in the new garden subfloor. Moving on, the second scrapped entity which could be added to the subfloor is the Flytrap. This one obviously could be implemented given how it's literally a killer plant, not only fitting the theme of the garden subfloor, but we also have another killer plant in the game in the form of Snare. Now, something interesting about the Flytrap in specific I'd like to touch up on is its relation to the Snare boss. Now, I've already made 2 videos about this boss, so watch those if you haven't, but a rough summarization of what those videos state is this. Essentially, throughout the game you can find this large spiky vine, and the developers as well as El Goblino in-game have both pointed out that it is extremely important. This vine is theorized to be part of Snare, who was confirmed to be a singular entity made up of a series of interconnecting vines and individual snare traps. Now, I believe that in the garden subfloor we would come face to face with this snare boss, this giant amalgamation of vines and traps, and I theorize it would actually look like a giant flytrap. This is because fighting against a wall of just vines is kind of weird, so having them all connected to some massive plant boss thing could be kinda cool. Additionally, flytraps and snare traps already have a lot in common, so what if the two were connected? This is just speculation though, but it could end up playing out once the subfloor releases. So, to summarize, given the Groundskeeper and Flytrap's correlation to plants, I believe that they'll be reworked and re-implemented into the new subfloor as entities we'll have to battle against. Now, I didn't really touch up on this, but I am completely unsure how these creatures will function in the game, as we only received models for them which don't really reveal anything too major about their mechanics. Maybe the Flytrap will bite you or something? Anyways, that was essentially the whole video. Let me know in the comments what your predictions are over these two entities, and with all of that being said, thank you all for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.